Greetings. I am Chris Sims from Agile Learning Labs, and I'm excited to share with you the best technique I know for getting a team to work together to create story point estimates for their work. And it's worth pointing out that this approach is relative estimation. What that means is that the estimates do not directly represent time, right? So we're not saying like, oh, one story point is a day or one story point is an hour, or anything like that. Why would we bother? We already have words for time, right? So a story point is simply a relative unit. And what that means is knowing the estimate on one item by itself gives you no information. Where they are useful is comparing estimates across items in the same team's backlog, right? So something that is two story points, the team believes that that is about twice as much work as an item that is one story point. And for a whole host of reasons, we actually get much more useful estimates when we take this approach. It turns out human beings are very bad at guessing how long things will take. And not only is the overall quality of the estimate provably bad, but we skew low. There is a cognitive bias, planning bias, that leads us to believe that we can get more things done in any given period of time, or stated another way, that things will take less time than they actually take. So kind of sidestepping our brain's time guessing machinery leads to better estimates. So with this approach, the easy estimation approach, we gather the team together and we create a set of estimates that are relative, and we're building up a scale where all of the items in their backlog are related to all of the other items in a very visual way. So what I'm about to do is coach a new team in the use of this approach. So the new team that I'm going to be working with is at a scrappy startup in the fruit eating space. They think they're going to get rich eating fruit. I know this sounds completely ridiculous, but trust me, even crazier things got funded back in the 90s. I was there. So we are going to start by having a look at the spreadsheet tool that we will use to help this team kind of facilitate the approach. Over here on the left of the spreadsheet is an area that I call the estimating grid. And on the estimating grid, we have rows. Each row has a number. So work items, product backlog items that are, teeny tiny, hardly any work at all, we'll call them one story point, and they'll be placed into this row. Items that are twice as much work as that will go here in the 2-point row. Items that are 8 times as much work, yep, they're going in the 8-point row. And we're using the Fibonacci scale, so it goes as high as you want. So items that are like 1,597 times more work go up here in this row. Before you start, you have to establish an anchor for the scale. And the anchor should be a product backlog item, right, a deliverable that is going to require some work, but it's really a trivial amount of work. For our fruit eating team, our anchor item is 1 blueberry. So here's how the technique works. We take turns. So we've got all the developers' names here in the developers column. And we'll start up at the top with Paula. Paula will go first. So go ahead and click on that top item and reveal it.
It's an apple. So I'll move it over, and I'm actually going to move it down to 8. And I think that it's an 8 because I can't just bite into an apple because it hurts my teeth. So I definitely have to cut it up. It's going to need wash. So washing, cutting it up, so slicing it in some format. And so I think it's going to be 8 times as much work as just plopping that blueberry into our mouth.
Excellent. And team, as one of your teammates is moving an item, feel free to comment, ask questions, make suggestions, and definitely do what Paula did, right? She was thinking out loud, explaining her thought process as to why she thinks the apple is significantly more work than the blueberry. From here on out, when it's your turn, you have a choice. If you agree with where your teammates put the items, well, then go grab the next item and decide where to place it. If, however, you disagree with where an item has been placed, you could use your turn to move one item to a different location.
Let's see here. We've got a coconut. Coconut's a tough nut to crack. I'd say I'm gonna put that. I'm gonna need a hammer to break it, and then I'm probably gonna make a mess because there'll be water all over the place. So cleanup's gonna be pretty significant. I would say it's probably 3 times as difficult as eating an apple. I'm gonna go with 21.
Hey, wait a minute. Is this the coconut that's brown or does this have the green husk on it still? Because that's kind of hard to get off sometimes too.
I think, either way, whether it's green or it's brown, I think the mess is about the same. Green coconut would probably require a different breaking technique, but the other elements will probably remain mostly the same. So yeah, I'm going to stick with 21.
Diana, you are next. You can either move an item if you disagree with it, or you can bring in a new item.
I think I am gonna move the coconut up to 34. I think it's gonna be even more difficult because I'm envisioning draining the water from the coconut, and I'm also envisioning opening up the coconut and scoop out the meat of the coconut. So I'm thinking that if we want to, eat the whole coconut, I think it's actually a lot more work. So I'm gonna move it to 34.
I think moving it to 34 is fair in this.
Especially with that uncertainty.
Yeah.
All right, excellent. Oren, you are up next. You can move one, or you can add a new item.
I will add a new fruit. And I got the durian. Well, in terms of difficulty, I've heard of this fruit before, and I'm told 2 things. That the fruit is really tough to extract, and also that it smells like feet after camping. And so I think there's a lot of emotional labor that comes with smelling not good things. So, and also tasting something that tastes like gasoline. And so I'm thinking I'm gonna go quite the distance. I'm gonna maybe controversially, I'm gonna put it down here on 233. What do you guys think though?
I don't think that's controversial at all. I mean, I'm questioning, is this gonna make us sick? Like, are we gonna have to take recovery time after eating this, like a whole sick day? Or, I mean, that would really affect our velocity for the week. So I think, if there's recovery time, we need to build it into the cost of knocking this one out.
Yeah, I'm also wondering, like, what is the skin like? Is it a shell, or is it, is it soft? Is it going to be hard? Is it like there's some uncertainty there for me on that. And I definitely have a harder time doing the work if it smells really bad.
Yeah, maybe we need to put on like some PPE before we even open the fruit.
All right, so it sounds like we're pretty comfortable giving it a great big estimate. So I'm going to move us along. Margot, what would you like to do?
I'm going to move the apple, putting it on a 55. So we have to take some time to slice it up and clean up. And then if a blueberry is a 1, I usually cut an apple into 8 slices, and then each slice is like 4 or 5 bites. So at 5 bites, that would be like 40, size 40. So I think it's definitely over a 34. It needs to be a 35 or sorry, 55.
I think I disagree. I think cracking open a coconut is harder than peeling an apple.
Yes, and I think the coconut estimate also needs to move.
And this is an interesting thing that'll come up sometimes is At some point, right, one or more team members may feel like, oh, our whole scale is off a little bit. And so they can move one item with their turn, as Margot has done. And if the other team members agree with that, they might use their turns to move other items up. If they disagree, they might use their turn to move Apple back. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. All right, so after the last team member has taken their turn, we wrap back around. First team member gets to go again. Paula, what would you like to do?
Well, I think I'm going to move the apple back up. Maybe not quite up to the 8, because I think that Margot's thought about like how many bites is an important one. So I think I'm going to move it up to 13.
I'm going to put it in between apple and coconut.
This is a tricky one because it comes down to the question of how are we eating the apple? If we're peeling the apple, we have to use an instrument. But if we're eating the apple skin straight up, then obviously there's no peeling it. So I would argue it's easier than the orange. But at the same time, right, the orange is, you don't really eat the skin of the orange, but you can peel it with your hands. So it can be both, depending on how you want to approach it, could be easier and harder.
And this is really interesting because one of the things that happens when a team is using this easy estimation technique is they're naturally going to get involved in conversations about how are we going to do the work? And different team members will have different ideas. And one of the things that they're going to start to do is kind of figure out, what do we think is the best way to approach the work? We don't have to completely figure it out, but we have to like figure it out enough that we can decide, oh, which estimate are we most comfortable with? Let's see what the team comes up with.
I'm happy to eat the apple peel. It's the most nutritious part. I don't think chewing it up adds a lot of effort, but removing it adds some effort. And how do you guys feel about that approach to the apple?
I'm a big fan of the apple peel, personally.
And then the apple, the other thing is as we're cutting it up, one person can be cutting it and handing out slices, and people can already start like eating the slices before it's even finished being chopped up. Orange, you have to peel it first, and then you can kind of start doing the same.
Yeah.
And are there, oh, go ahead, Paula.
I was just gonna say, there's also the tool that is an apple core that slices and cores it all at once. So it's just a quick way to do that. And then you just hand out the slices, and the core all comes out in a stem kind of thing, and easy to throw in the compost bucket.
Cool. Do we have one of those in our developer
We
toolkit?
do. We do.
Okay.
I would like to unveil a new item. Let's see. Oh, pineapple. Okay, so a pineapple has all these spikes outside of it, so we need to cut away those the crown and then the outside skin, and then from that point on, I think you can just cut them in big pieces. I think it's pretty easy once you remove the outside. So I would say put it was the same as coconut at 34 then.
So just so you guys know, I have an allergy to pineapple, so I cannot eat it. I can work on the chopping though.
Warren, what would you like to do?
The grand reveal. A pomegranate. Pomegranates. Okay. Pomegranates can be messy. I don't know how hard the shell is. I don't think it's that hard to get into, but they're just like all these little teeny things that you have to get through. They also have little seeds in them, and you got to crunch on the seed or spit them out. But they're not that much to eat, right? Like just I could take a handful and put them in my mouth without very much issue.
Yeah, and our customer said they definitely want us to eat the seeds. They were real clear about that part.
Understood. So it's an extra crunch. Okay, so that makes it definitely harder than the grape, I would say.
Are we covering flossing in this? Because those teeth, the seeds will rot them out.
Mm.
And any cleanup the team thinks they need to do to be, ready to go with the next one. Don't want to leave any technical debt behind.
How hard is it to cut a pomegranate in half? Is it as hard as an apple?
It's not, but to get all those little pieces out, like pulling all the stuff apart and stuff like that, I would say it's definitely harder than an apple.
Okay.
It's something we could divide up and each work on, but then we'd each have extra bowls to clean up.
I think I'm gonna move it to 34. I think it's tough. It sounds tougher than an orange based on what I'm hearing. So I'm gonna move it to 34, and if you guys want to make differentiations between these three, I think that would be helpful.
I'm gonna move the durian. Down a little more. I just really don't feel sure about that.
Yeah, I really didn't know what it was when the customer asked me about it, but I told him we'd eat it.
Mm,
Thanks, product owner.
Yeah, yeah, I think I'm gonna move the coconut down. So I think I'm gonna move it down. I think I'm gonna make it to 144 because I do think that like getting all of that meat off of that shell is usually kind of difficult. And so I think it's gonna take us some time to do that.
I'm gonna say pomegranate. I'm gonna move that one up to 55.
If you've ever eaten a lot of pineapple, you're gonna notice your mouth starts to hurt because the acidic properties of the pineapple actually burn a little bit, right? When you eat the pineapple, it eats you back. And I think that it's tough. It's painful to open and painful to eat. And then it's painful to clean up because then you have to touch the outside again to throw it away. So I'm moving the pineapple down, and I'm going to hope that someone moves the pomegranate up. That's my call here.
I think I'm actually pretty good here. I think there's some things that I would move around based on further detail, but since we don't have that right now, I think this is as accurate as I think it can get. So I'm gonna rest here.
Yeah, I think I'm feeling pretty good too.
And Peter,
I'll pass.
Diana,
Yeah, I feel pretty good with this.
back to Oren.
I was going to move the pomegranate up, but everybody feels very confident on this, and I don't have enough pomegranate-based experience, so I'm going to leave it there.
So we've had one round where nobody wants to move anything. So at this point, the team has created estimates for a whole set of backlog items that they all agree with. And along the way, the team has identified areas of unknown, right? So we're going to be going off and doing a little bit more research about pomegranate, a little bit more research about coconut and durian. They have identified potential approaches to how they're going to do the work, right? We've discovered that, oh, we actually have this fancy apple coring thing, and we think that that might help us do that. This has been a successful session, creating estimates, and more importantly, coming to understand the work better, both what is it that our stakeholders are hoping we will do, and how do we think we're going to do it. Now, if you'd like to try this technique with your team, go to weeatfruit.com. Thanks for hanging out with us. I'm Chris Sims from Agile Learning Labs.
I'm Diana, and I am a Agile coach, and I'm part of this team to help eating the fruit.
Hi, I'm Margot. I'm also an Agile coach in real life. I've been a Scrum Master or Agile coach for the past 11 plus years and still loving it.
Hi, I'm Oren. I'm a proud fruit eater, and I am a Scrum Master at Lucid Motors.
Hi, I'm Paula Espinosa. I am a continuous improvement coach and have been a Scrum Master on a team before. And I work in education and work to promote continuous improvement and equity in schools.
Hi, I'm Peter. I'm the newest junior developer at weeatfruit.com. I'm very excited about the potential of this company.
Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Hope you found it useful. Did I mention, if you want to do this yourself, weeatfruit.com.